Hi, I'm Toby, and this is RapiDeploy. RapiDeploy is essentially a service for creating your own software as a service platform. And here is our example, or our demo UI for RapiDeploy. This could be implemented into any kind of site that you have. But right here we'll see we've got our demo app, and you could have any number of apps here. In fact, if we go here into our code, there's this folder here, service templates. You just take the source code for your product that you're releasing, or your software that you're releasing on your platform, and you just place it here in its own folder, and then it'll automatically create a view or it'll automatically create a card right here. So we have our card here. We've got a little form here. We can type in the name for the service that we want, and I'll demonstrate this in a minute, and it'll create one. We can also see all the ones that have been created. In a production environment, we probably wouldn't have this except for maybe our own services, especially with this delete button here. But for this demo, I've just put it all here. You can see all of them, not just your own. Now we're going to look at this right here. If we look at the URL bar, we have a subdomain here, and we have a not found error. That's because this service hasn't been created yet. So, it's just like we're going to a website that doesn't exist yet. And we can even refresh this and it's still not going to exist. But if we go in here and we type in the name of that, this is the one I've been using to test all night. That's why I'm using it as my demo. And we hit create. It's going to quickly just go ahead and it's going to create an app for us. And the demo app, it just throws some information out at you. There's not much to it. But we can go back here and look, it's been deployed. And there's some significance to what's going on there, because that looks very, very simple. But what's going on in the background, it really isn't as simple as it looks. If we look at our demo app, we have our index right here. That's obviously your home page, and you'll notice this is a relatively normal web page. Basically, everything is these variables. Everything's kind of blank, and also, this wasn't the URL we went to. And how this really works is it all comes down to this config file right here. If we look inside of it, we've got a bunch of configurations, and what this is doing is this is when we hit that button to create the service, it's telling it exactly what to do and how to create it. Defining a bunch of settings, I'll let you read those comments on your own if you want, but it's not super important. Then we have this file here, which takes it all in, and it's going to basically install this. It's going to copy all of the files over to this folder here, where we have all of our services. And once it's over here, it's going to copy it all except the config file, because we don't really want the end user to have access to that. And then it's going to create a database. It's going to create a custom user, because obviously we don't want one database user being shared. We want one who only can access that database. That way they can't mess with other people's data. We're also going to just generate a random password for them. And if we actually go back over to our template that we created the service from, we can look in here and we'll notice it's blank. When we deploy it, it actually fills in all this data here, so we have these variables accessible to us in our product. That way, it's not a predefined password or default password or anything. We have a new password, and that's a very important thing here for automating the process of installing it. And it also kind of does that with some other variables. It's not just blank files that it can enter this into. I showed you this index here a second ago, but if we actually look at the index that was just deployed in our, when we hit that create button, we will notice here that we have all of those, variables with the percent signs there have been replaced with the actual values. Now, I wouldn't go around putting your password on the home screen. That's probably a terrible idea, but there are applications where that might be useful. Same with everything else here that you see. There's applications where that might be useful, and you're not necessarily limited to these variables. These are just the ones that I decided to include in my demo. But, we've gone through, we've put in all of that. The other thing that that you may have noticed when we were doing that is when we created our new one, it took us to index.php, and you could specifically see that in the URL. It wasn't just the base URL, the subdomain here, and that's because potentially you have another setup script that's being run specifically for this app. It'll take you to that. It'll run that script, so that you can do any last minute setup or configuration that the app that's very specific to the app. Everything else is automated. Now, end of the life cycle, we want to get rid of some things. So we can look over here and we can see we've got all of my different users that have been created for these apps here, and you might notice the CSU underscore, and over here this CSD underscore. Those are just prefixes to basically establish that all of these services have a different namespace from any other programs that might be running on the server. That way someone can't just pick a name for their service that interferes with something else that's running. But we see this here. We know it exists in there. Now let's say we want to delete it. We can just hit this delete button here. We see it's gone from this list. Come over here and refresh. It's gone from here and here as well. It's gone. If we go ahead and refresh this, it's gone. This is essentially a really just easy tool for the person using it to create and manage a software as a service platform. Very little configuration that has to be done from the person running the platform. You just have to write this. You just have to write your INI file here, your config file that tells it how to install it, and then you're golden. We can even populate the database directly from in here, just including a .SQL file, anything like that. It's super straightforward to use, and I just showed you what it's like from a user's perspective. 2 clicks and we've created installed the program. 1 click and we've gotten rid of it. It's as simple as that, and it automatically is creating these subdomains. It's managing all that super simply. So that's more or less my project. There's a GitHub link on the project page, so feel free if you want to take a look there and look at the source code, run it yourself if you want to. This is an open source project. You could even use this yourself if you wanted to. So thanks for taking the time to view my presentation. Hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully you can get something out of this.